Earthquakes are awesome! The devastating impact they have on a single area is jaw-dropping. Hoorah! Go God! Just look at the massive devastation an earthquake can cause. A lot of people criticize our deity, but who else but God will keep us safe from gays, abortionists, Satan worshippers, and Buddhists? I don't know why liberal media always talks about the negatives that the acts of God cause. Why can't they talk about the good things they do too? That's right, if you're against the acts of God, you're against God! Paid for by Christians demanding fair and balanced coverage of God's divine and holy plan. A recent revelation of how badly American media has sunk was just made apparent to me the other day. Just to let you know, I don't watch the news. I don't even have a TV. I tend to get all my news off the internet, be it from BBC or Yahoo News. My girlfriend recently got stuck in the waiting room watching CNN and found out that the news coverage of Haiti was being turned into a snuff film. They showed graphic images of dead bodies lining the streets, and they even interviewed people trapped under the rubble. I was shocked and horrified, but not as much as she was. If the coverage of Haiti was the same as the coverage for Iraq, President Bush would have been hanged for it in a heartbeat along with any other leader who ever went to war. Those images, however, were suppressed from the media so as not to cause a loss of morale to the troops and the American people, aka spin and truth suppression. In the average newspaper, there is a page of opinion from the public, i.e. letters to the editor, and the rest of it is news. The television industry used to follow the same model until Rupert Murdoch figured out that the news is expensive and requires a lot of research and analysis. Opinion, however, requires no research, and therefore can be dirt cheap by comparison. Also, if you interject blind emotion and argue polarizing positions, people will line up to watch what you have to say and follow it lockstep. This would never fly in the paper industry. This is not to say that the newspaper was perfect, far from it. Mark Twain used to berate the news industry, much like Jon Stewart does today. Newspapers also were who convinced America to enter the Spanish-American War under false pretenses. The difference now is that TV has a much stronger illusionary effect than that of the printed word, which has led to a seriously partisan nation. One major advantage is that opinion shows can appear exactly like news because they're set up in the same format. Therefore, you get the perception that this person has authority. Humans are not particularly stupid. The problem is that they do not realize their own susceptibility to manipulation on their brain's psychological mechanisms. The appearance of how our brain reacts to things as opposed to how it actually reacts can many times be completely different. Only through unbiased science and double-blind testing can we figure out how our brain actually works. Common sense rarely works in this area because of our lack of perspective. This illusion was taken full advantage of by advertising as well. Psychology entering advertising was what caused a modern wave of getting people to buy things and ideas that are probably not best for them. In the early 1900s, Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, studied psychology, and it was all over from there. The advertising company quickly realized they could make a lot of money selling people things they didn't actually need, and make someone think they agreed to something they actually didn't. Any new finding in the study of human behavior has been jumped on by the advertising companies. They have experts come in and watch footage of security cameras so they can analyze what types of store arrangements and setups cause higher sales. An entire store is scientifically feng shuied to make you more likely to buy something. Another example is the fact that children cannot distinguish reality from fantasy until a certain age. This is why many European countries have laws preventing marketing to children, but in the US we have a $50 billion industry based on it. Politicians and big businesses have followed suit as well. If a person is elected, it is probably not because they are best at the job, but because they have a decent PR person who knows how to make the American people think he was the best. Karl Rove and the Bush team actually hired a firm that took surveys on words that were emotionally charged so that they could better emotionally sway the American people. It is also used to cover one's ass. Big businesses have also latched onto this to create a better image or help reduce the perceived damage from a social or environmental crisis. They will create what looks like a grassroots movement, but is actually fronted by a large corporation. These groups are called AstroTurf by real grassroots organizers. The Tea Party movement was hijacked and converted into an AstroTurf organization. Television also took the power of authority from local newspapers. It changed the news from having multiple sources to what we have now, where almost all news is owned by about 8 companies. In terms of day-to-day information, we went from almost an animistic news society to a polytheistic news society in terms of our national information. Luckily, with the rise of the internet, the information has become more dispersed, and we are beginning to be able to get news from more sources than ever. Also, thanks to blogs and YouTube, we can now get a real, fair, and balanced view of the world, with amateur opinion, like letters to the editor, in the same volume that we can get opinion posing as news by experts. Sites like YouTube have also diluted the polytheistic worship of celebrities. Prior to mass movement of people to exchange community for commerce, every community had many celebrities. Our tribal mindset has a need to know the whereabouts and activities of our tribe members at all time. This was probably useful when another tribe or wild animal could attack and carry you off. With the fragmentation of community, stars and later hotel heiresses began to fill these needs, but with much more apparent importance than they actually held. Thanks to YouTube, there are now a bunch of mini-celebrities that fill this need. An animism of celebrities over polytheistic celebrities. Anytime I think of a celebrity now, I think of them as just another person with some talent, maybe, as opposed to getting any sort of feeling that they are special or better than anyone else. Making these videos and knowing the effects of bestowing importance a camera can give also dilutes any extra merit on a celebrity that may have been given by a camera. Another advantage of the internet and advertising is that our children now trust things less and are forced to be more skeptical about anything said. They have to, as there are so many differing opinions out there. The TV created a consensus on what we should all think. The internet is now a minefield of non-conforming, brilliant, and many times dangerous ideas. Studies show that most teenagers take all commercials with a grain of salt and can now even tune them out for the most part. Being constantly challenged by lies and scams will hopefully inoculate a lot of them from bull. Because they weren't so challenged, many of our elderly fall prey easily to scam artists. Understanding your own psychology and how easily you are susceptible to mental manipulation is essential to your own health and financial safety. Otherwise, you may end up giving money to a Nigerian prince, or voting for Sarah Palin.